Okay, so we are recording officially now. Welcome to Reiki Radio. Today we have a beautiful special guest named Muurmaid, and you are a Reiki practitioner, and I know that you're also a tarot enthusiast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today because it is a topic that is so important for so many women, and actually even men too, but it's in this realm. There's a lot of generalization around healing, and so I don't want to give too much away up front, but I just want to say that I am very excited to have you here to talk about this. So before we get into the root chakra and healing the trauma that so many of us hold in that space, I first wanted to ask you about you and your path. So how did you come into Reiki and tarot? What started you in all of this?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on the show. For starters, I'm very excited to be here. What led me on this journey, it started pretty much at childhood, just looking through tarot and being interested in something deeper than what I was being told and just wanting to learn more. And so it went deeper into teenage years, and then my own sexual abuse and trauma is what led me to seek help for myself. So I seek Reiki for myself and got Reiki treatment from elders, and that led me to want to read more on it and to become a practitioner myself. So I've been doing Reiki for almost 3 years now, and I've been doing tarot officially for a couple of years as well, but it's something that I've always have just been into. My father's side of his family are all like New Orleans, and it's just that tarot type of like hoodoo spiritual energy that I just had to tap into.
Yeah. I love New Orleans. I mean, it's such a magical city just in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things with Reiki, I wanted to ask, was it something that was referred to you, or how did you even find out about it or consider it a way of healing?
It was actually referred to me because I was taking a meditation class, and one of the women in the meditation classes was telling me that she was going to Reiki sessions. And I'm just like, okay, like I've heard the term a little bit, and I was asking her more about it. And she was like, you should really come. And so I went and I got some treatments done. And then it's just something that I just naturally felt so connected to, because I've always have felt like I had a certain type of energy in my hands that I never really knew much about, just from doing massages, or if I would do like a pedicure on someone, they would just fall asleep or just, and I'm like, what is up with this? And so once I got into Reiki and just got deeper into crystals and just aromatherapy, like the deeper that I went on the journey, the more I figured that I was able to not only help and heal other people, but I was healing myself as I was helping to heal these women. So it was mutualism that really was helpful for me too.
That's one of the biggest things with Reiki of why I love it as well, like even the self-healing aspect. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that because of, there is a lot of focus on helping others to heal and that type of thing. So before we get into the topic of the chakra healing, the root chakra specifically, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, if someone asked you about Reiki and how it helps you personally, like what has been your relationship with this practice and how has it helped you?
My relationship with the practice pretty much has been self-discovery. It's been able to help me to tap deeper into myself in a way that I never knew I would be able to. And it's really has been able to help me to clear up different blockages that I've had, going back to childhood, going back to teenage years. And it's gotten to the point to where I can even do Reiki on myself once I feel something is going on or taking place, whether it's like before a menstrual cycle or whether I know I'm holding on to something in that root area. I'm like, nope, let me Reiki myself, and it helps. So for me, it's been self-discovery and self-empowerment and self-love and self-healing, which has been just a long journey, and Reiki has helped me with that self-love journey.
Well, I have to ask you this too, because it is something that comes up a lot. In, going into Reiki, a lot of people have this idea of, oh, spirituality, light and love. And a lot of people are shocked to find out the shadow work that comes about and what does come up for the process of healing and, like these things. So when you connected with this and the work that you've done, can you just talk about how, like, the benefit of that, the benefit of once you allow the energy to move and what may come up and what you start to realize, like, how have you allowed yourself to let that be transformative and empowering instead of, the scary thing?
Exactly. A lot of people do feel like, oh, it's just love and light, and that this healing journey just always has to be beautiful and we're skipping through the daffodils. But healing sometimes is blood, sweat, and tears. And when someone gets on your Reiki table and you're performing Reiki on them, they may burst out into tears.
Right.
They may even freeze up or want to even stop because they're realizing this pain that they have to confront, and that has to be dealt with, and that has to be worked through their body. So it's so important to know that we can heal one step at a time. We can clear these blockages one step at a time. It doesn't have to be an overnight success story when it comes to healing. We have to really take our time and honor our emotions and just honor our journey.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. And it's been transformative for me because it allowed me to have more patience with myself and my journey. And it's allowed me to help reflect that to my clients and let them know, like, we're never going to be perfect. We're on this journey and we're on this path. We have work to do, one step at a time, one foot, after the other, and feet don't fail me now because we're here,
Yes.
And we're here.
No, honey, I love that. And I think one of the biggest things you said is, having patience with it and having patience with yourself, because it is this unfolding, but it also leads us to this amazing level of self-acceptance that, that's one of the most powerful things. So I'm really glad that you said that, because a lot of people also do put this pressure on themselves of, like, I'm doing this work, I should be perfect now, or I should be like enlightened or whatever. And it's really about the journey. And you have no idea, my God, the layers that we're holding on to, but it's really amazing. So I'm really glad that you shared that. So one of the things that we are talking about today, and I have to say again, I am very glad that this is even a topic that you wanted to discuss, because another thing that happens in this realm is a lot of people tend to want to just focus on, like, the upper chakras, or, like, just the intuition and all of these things, which is beautiful and great. But there's this important component of being embodied, and, like, the different trauma that we experience that has us in a lot of ways disconnected from ourselves, right? Yes. So I wanted to ask you about that. What even brought your focus into this work around trauma and realizing, like, the different trauma we hold, especially with, like, these different aspects of womanhood,
Just really personal trauma that I've gone through, from molestation to rape to very difficult abusive relationships with men. Just different things that I personally have gone through has really led me and empowered me to say, I have to get help for myself. And in getting that help, I'm like, I have to share this help. I have to help other women, because sometimes we put the blame on us and we say, oh, I caused this, or, oh, it's my fault, or I deserve to feel this pain, or I deserve to feel this shame. And it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to feel as though pain is what our strength is. Like, pain doesn't have to give us strength. Our strength comes from our healing. And that has been really what has led me to get into doing this work and continuing the work, and to focus on the lower chakras, because especially as women, it's the main trauma that we all deal with.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting how many different layers of trauma we do hold there. So just like you said, the sexual trauma, which is huge, you know, so many women. And even, you know, there are some women I know who haven't experienced, you know, extreme trauma such as, you know, rape and molestation and these things, but they still have this trauma of even regret of, you know, sexual encounters that they've had.
Yes,
And like,
fear of intimacy.
Yeah.
Is something that can cause root chakra trauma. A lot of body dysmorphia. If you've been bullied, or you're feeling if you're not feeling confident about your body, you hold that trauma and that level and down there too. Even with menstrual pain, your menstrual cycles, you're holding trauma in that area too. As far as even who we're dealing with,
right,
who we're mating with, who we're interacting with, we have to be careful with that too, because
well, that's another layer too that you just mentioned. And our menstrual cycles, like you said, like I know that, and it's why I think this is so important too, is I don't think that we always recognize how much this impacts our relationships with ourselves and how we carry ourselves in the world, and even like the type of relationships we allow ourselves to be in, the people we attract, and all of these things, if we're not allowing ourselves to heal and connect to that worth, that, you know, like really being confident in loving who we are regardless of what we've experienced, and like recognizing that those experiences aren't us and don't define us. But it's beautiful that you have, even through your work, found this way to empower yourself and then help other women do the same. So, but the menstrual cycle, yeah, I wanted to touch on that too, because a lot of people, and I used to go through this prior to coming into energy work, I hated it. I mean, it was like, you know, I hated being a woman once a month. And that, again, was something that was impacting my relationship with myself. A lot of women have like all kinds of like shame around, we don't talk about these things, you know? So even with that, that layer of it, how has Reiki helped you with that, and like understanding the cycles and the rhythm, and just how beautiful it is, our connection and harmony with the moon?
It's helped me so much because it made me realize that there are tools that we women can utilize so that we don't suffer through so much pain each month during our cycles. There's even different just self exercises that we can do on ourselves with our womb. You know, if we use some jojoba oil and we add some sage essential oil, and we just counterclockwise around our belly on our womb, that is going to clear up your menstrual pain. You'll notice a difference instantly. Within like 20-30 minutes, you're going to notice a difference of how your cycle will be. And also just yoni teas, I say, are great to do as well. Red raspberry is great. Rosemary is great. Aromatherapy is great as well. And as far as Reiki, just doing Reiki on that sacral area is going to release so much tension that's being held there. See, a lot of times our cycles are so painful because we're holding on to something there, whether it's regret, whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, abuse, whatever it may be. We're holding it there, and we're going to feel it even more during that cycle. And so it's all about releasing.
Yeah.
Boxing is a great way to release as well too.
And it's also, I mean, it comes to a point where, you know, I had to find appreciation in that time, and it becoming like this, almost like a sacred timing, you know, again, thinking about us harmonizing with the moon, and just like how magnificent our design is. And even this process of, it's like a cleansing, you know, and really changing our mindset around. So that's one thing I just want to point out for people listening, with all the things that we go over today, a lot of it also has to do with our perspective and our mindset around it, you know, and like making a decision of whether it was trauma or your cycle and birthing trauma, which we'll talk about, you know, that those things, there has to be a part where we make the decision of how we're going to view these things and what we're going to do about it to allow our healing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you do doula work as well, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
I do doula work. And it's something that I recently have gotten into. So I've been doing it for a little under a year, but I have done some birthings and I have done some postpartum work. And I know postpartum, that's so important that's where the essential oils come in. That's where the yoni teas come in. That's where the sitz baths come in. And it really helps women with just releasing and becoming back into the woman that they know that they are, because they also hold trauma in that sacral and in that root area from fear, from, you know, am I still beautiful? Like, you know, the postpartum fears, and just also the pain, or if there's an injury during birth. And there's so many different things that take place even during the birthing scene. Like if a woman is holding on to stress or pain or even abandonment at the birthing scene, those things could even cause an unnecessary C-section. So it's so important for women to be supported at birth. And that's what got me into doing doula work. It's so important for women to be supported at birth and watch during birth so that they can be able to answer for themselves. Yes, no, ask questions. Is this something see what we can do before you're given an option that you may not be comfortable with doing.
Yeah. And, you know, when you're saying that, it reminds me of too, it is beautiful. It seems to be more now that women are utilizing more of their voice, but that so many women like you are even stepping forward to create this space of, you know, connection and support, and saying like, honey, you're not alone. You know, like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I felt that was so important for me to do, because at one point, you know, I didn't really feel like I had that. And so now I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that other women have that, because, you know, we all know what it's like at one point in our lives to feel like we're between either a rock and a hard place, or maybe our backs are against the wall and we're holding on to that stress again in that sacral and in that root. And so what can I do, you know, to help other women to not have to go down those dark roads, or to, you know, live in fear or in pain. And so I've just have been able to, you know, just show up, just simply showing up for other people has been able to help to bring light into their life. It's all about just showing up for each other.
Yeah, that is a beautiful message too. And I really like this. I mean, all of it reminds me so much of like reclaiming our divine feminine essence.
Yes.
You hear a lot about, you know, the divine feminine and all of these things, but it's a difference when we just say like, yes, I'm embracing my feminine, but to actually do the work, and allowing yourself to do that deep level healing. And, you know, even those lower chakras, I mean, that's related to the divine feminine and earth and all of these things. So I hope that people listening understand. I mean, healing, yes, we think of it as like we're healing so we don't hurt and these types of things. But the beauty of it too is it really does help you reclaim yourself, and you do start to feel more in your power and ownership of who you are and loving who you are.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
When we heal ourselves, we're allowing ourselves to just own our existence. You know, we're saying, I'm here, I deserve to be here. And it's okay to heal yourself for yourself. I always tell women this all the time. Self-preservation and self-love don't feel guilty by that. It's not a bad thing. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. If you are neglecting yourself, you can't be there for a friend. You can't be, you know, the best mother or the best father. You have to give yourself that self-care. And with sacral and root healing, we're healing the chakras from the bottom all the way up. Don't feel like you have to start at the crown and work your way down. Like, no, we have to start with the root, because that deals with fight or flight. That deals with, you know, security. that deals with, survival mode. Sacral, that deals with creativity. You don't want to have blockages there when you have work to do, when you have purpose, you want to live your life mission. You have to deal with the trauma and the pain in those lower levels and then work your way up. So a lot of people feel like they have to start from the top and down. Like, no, it's okay. One chakra at a time, but start from the bottom and up.
Yeah. And I always tell people too, it's your foundation. You want to have like a very sturdy foundation. But again, it comes back to being in your body, but like being strong in your body. So yeah, again, I'm really glad that you wanted to talk about this in particular. So one of the things with this too, I wanted to ask you about, because I know with Reiki and energy work, it can be such a beautiful tool with helping us to rebalance and allow the release and the realization of what we're holding and all of these beautiful things. I wanted to ask you about tarot too, because a lot of people are curious about that. How has that been a supportive tool in your journey?
Very supportive. Super supportive. I'm almost just like a tarot addict, I guess you can say, because I just go to the cards, when, of course, I talk to spirits, I've talked to the creator, but if I feel like I need an answer for myself, then I'm like, okay, let me just go and see what the cards have to say. And it always reveals to me exactly what it is that I need to know. So tarot is very important, I would say, for anyone that is trying to, who is either on a self-discovery journey or who is looking for a deeper level of clarity in their lives. Definitely get yourself a tarot reading. You'd be so surprised what shows up and what comes up, what opens up, what Pandora box you're opening, but it's going to really help to propel you forward. Yes.
Yeah, I love tarot for the same reason, in that I think a lot of times it reveals to us what we know, but like the parts like we may like try to avoid, we don't want to look at, but it's exactly what we need to hear. But it also gives us perspective. I mean, sometimes we just need to see something from like a higher viewpoint or from a higher lens to help us in our decision making or to help us move through those blocks and these types of things. So even in the work that you do Reiki and tarot as a separate thing, or do you combine them?
It really depends on the client. Sometimes I'll keep it separate and sometimes I'll combine it, just depending on what their specific needs are. And sometimes I'll do Reiki and I'll incorporate it with crystal healing, with aromatherapy, and then we'll do a reading afterwards. Or we can start off with the reading, really depending on what they're comfortable with and what exactly it is that they are looking for and seeking. But I definitely have incorporated the two before, and I've noticed that sometimes clients will be so surprised or shocked just to realize just how the session can go. It's like, wow, so I'm feeling this Reiki energy going through my body, and now you're showing me these things that I must deal with and face. Like, this is too much, but it's just a part of the journey. And I always let my clients know, respect your journey, honor your journey. You don't have to be perfect, because sometimes they'll even say to me like, I've been doing this work and I'm listening to your advice, but why haven't I seen this? Or why hasn't, why haven't I had an experience with a being? Or why hasn't this happened? It doesn't have to be magical. Everything doesn't happen overnight,
Right.
You just take your time. It's your path. It's your journey. It's your life. It's your experience. So just own your existence and be patient with yourself, and it all is going to come. Trust me, it's going to come. It didn't happen instantly for me.
Yeah. Oh, the same. And, it's two things with that. What you said, it reminds me of, people, I think a lot of times because we have this expectation of something like so, like drastic and shocking that we actually don't realize all of like the magic that's unfolding, or
exactly.
We miss the subtleties because we're looking for this one big thing that we're expecting to happen. Another thing with that though too, especially people doing this work and on this path, a lot of us come in and we do want like, ooh, I want to contact, I want to see my guides and I want to see, believe me, like, yes, it will unfold in its time. And the more work that you do, the more open of a channel you become and the more you allow. But, you know, like I always tell people, be patient. Like, you know, like, oh, you'll have experiences like you weren't expecting. So yeah, just kind of let it unfold as it unfolds. So that's one thing too I would like to ask you about. Were you very intuitive prior to this work, and after doing the self-healing and working with these tools, have you noticed that expand? Like, what has that unfolding been like for you in terms of like opening up to be more receptive?
Yes, well, I've always been intuitive, but of course, there were moments in my life where I blocked it off or I kind of just shut it down or I didn't want to deal with it. But then the deeper that I went on my journey, the more I showed up for myself and other people, the more the guide showed up for me. The more symbolism I would see, or, you know, the more whether it is shadow, whether it is animal guides, just you name it, a lot of different things, auras. I saw a rainbow aura just the other day. I was lighting an incense and staging my workspace, a big, beautiful rainbow aura on top of my ceiling, covering my whole ceiling and all the way around my incense. And this doesn't happen overnight. It takes, you know, doing the work. And if we're not called here to do the work, at least doing the work on ourselves, for our children, for our families. And we're going to see in doing that these things will begin to happen for us too.
I'm glad you say that too, because again, a lot of us come into this wanting to help others and wanting to, you know, we put pressure on ourselves of like, I'm a healer, I have to go save the world. But I think a lot of people miss the importance of the self-work. And it's really where we start in this. And it's interesting because I'm sure, like, I mean, would you have known this is how you would have gone down the rabbit hole into like doing doula work and all of these things? But it's like, as you do the work on yourself, it's really interesting how the opportunity to support others makes itself crystal clear to you. And you do start to open up to more support and more guidance and all of these beautiful things. So I want to ask you about that, because that is another thing that I talk to people about a lot, is like the evolution of their process and not being attached to it having to look a certain way, or, you know, you have no idea of where it's going to lead you. So when you started in all of this, like, I know that you said that you were healing and working through your own trauma, but how has this unfolded and progressed to you doing like the type of work that you do now?
It's amazing. It's beautiful. And when I first started, it almost just felt unbelievable. But then I realized I had to go through the darkness in order to get to the light, and in order
to say it again, honey, say it again.
I had to go through the darkness in order to get to the light and through the light. And I realized that the best life lessons that you learn is in the valley. It's at rock bottom. It's not at the mountaintop. You have to literally climb. It's the climb. It's the climb. And I have just been climbing, and I have just been journeying, and it's unfolded just beautifully for me. And it makes sense to me now, because I'm like, there's nothing else that I could or rather would be doing. So I had to go through those things to get to this point, to find out my life calling and my life purpose. So yes, and it takes just accountability for self, and saying, you know what, I am going to heal myself. I'm going to take care of self. I'm going to be accountable for self. That way I can be able to show up for others, because we have to show up for ourselves first in order to show up for others. And then once we show up for ourselves and then we show up for others, then the universe shows up for us. Then the guides show up for us. Then the synchronicities and the angel numbers and everything shows up for us. But it takes us being accountable and having accountability and being patient and doing that work.
Yeah, oh, so beautiful. And I'm going to ask you about astrology in a second because I don't know why that just popped in. I know that that's another interest of yours, but I love that you said that because a lot of people will beat themselves up about like, why has this happened to me? Why am I dealing with something that's so hard and so heavy and so dark? And why that, I'm doing this healing work. Why isn't it all, sunshine and rainbows?
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people there's such a gift when we allow ourselves to show up and like stand in the mirror, face our shadow. What we find out about ourselves on the other side of that and the transformative work of, not running away from these aspects, you can't even articulate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope people, and even with what you said, it helps people to know that there is beauty even in like the darker aspects that we have to work through. But the thing is that you have the strength. That's the thing I think people need to know is you have the strength to do it. And it reminds me of, how some people say your test is your testimony, but
Mm-hmm.
it's true. Like a lot of what we've gone through, even the hardest things, it really does then, like you've turned your trauma into like you went through this process of healing and now you're supporting other women. Like how beautiful is that? It's just it amazes me the resilience that we have when we do finally say like, you know what, I can do this.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Okay, so you got me excited on that one. Sorry. So I wanted to ask you though too about astrology, because I have to say I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh, she's so young and so full of wisdom and it's exciting and all of these things. And I think you've said patience a couple of times. And did you say, are you a Taurus?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when you're saying that, I was thinking like, yes, steady and grounded and all of these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the study of astrology, let's just like tie that in too. So how has that helped you in understanding yourself, and how has that played a part in your healing work?
It's been a part of my healing work because it allowed me to simply just know that it's okay to know that we're not going to necessarily connect with everyone. It's great for us to want to make that connection and to try to make that connection, but there's going to be certain compatibilities that work better for us than others. So that's something astrology has taught me. And of course, Taurus, I tapped a lot into just with being an earth sign. I tapped a lot into just being down to earth, being grounded, being more responsible, and holding myself accountable and charging forward like a bull, not backing down. I really had to charge forward through this. And yes.
Yeah.
And I also want to say with astrology too, just this whole entire shift with the age of Aquarius that we're ushering into, and the major shift that took place in 2012 was just a great awakening for me too, to just realize, okay, I have a deeper purpose than where I'm at now in my life. I owe more to the universe. I owe more to myself. And that is when I really just dug deeper into wanting to just find myself, self-discovery, self-empowerment, because it starts with self-discovery, then self-empowerment in order to get to self-mastery. So right now I'm self-empowerment, myself, other people, so that I can be able to earn my stripes to go to our galactic family by being able to get to self-mastery.
Yeah. And it's really what it's about. And that's another thing what I love in tarot is it really gives us like this outline of what the process even looks like, that journey of self-mastery. But with the astrology too, it's also one of the things I love because it does kind of help us to even have that self-acceptance, more understanding about ourselves and like, what our natural inclinations may be or what our challenges and gifts may be. So it's beautiful that we have all of these different tools available to help us figure this out,
Right, exactly. And even going back to the moon cycles, that ties into astrology too, because I know I tell my clients all the time, whether it is new moon or full moon, during the new moons, I'm telling them, okay, let's start this new cycle off in the right way. For an example, we just had a new moon in Leo. So during the new moon in Leo, I was telling my clients, okay, let's use this Leo energy. Let's use this fire, this lion energy for this beginning, this new cycle that we're on. So how are we going to use that lion to go forward? And then during the full moons, it's the time to release. It's the time for self. It's the time to not necessarily be outside under the full moon. A lot of women don't understand that the full moon is more so the masculine energy. Then the new moon is more so our divine feminine. So the full moon, we take time to kind of just self-reflect, to release, to do our spiritual baths, to do our self-work. And the new moons is a time where, we go out and we take these risks, and we power ourselves forward, and we are on this new beginning, and we're, gonna get it done. We're gonna push ourselves. We're gonna do it. And in the full moons, we're gonna reflect on what all we've done in our last cycle.
Yeah. And it's kind of like even this picturing of working through and harmonizing our yin and our yang, like the masculine and our feminine, the initiation, the action driven forward, the new. And then, yes, the beautiful quality of that reflective and very intuitive nature that we have as well. But when you're saying utilizing the energy of Leo, that's one of the things, too, I always tell people, even if you don't want to be an astrologer, it's a beautiful system to study just to understand the energy of the different signs and the planets and these things just on a basic level, because it does help at, like, I'm an Aquarius. No matter what sign, and I always say when we go into some energy of, say, like Virgo, right? I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that this is a reminder to tap into that energy of whatever that sign may be. Exactly. And understanding that we all can benefit from the strengths and the gifts of every single sign. But then also understanding, just like you're saying, the timing of the cycles, everything cyclical, and the process of our healing, our existence, our movement, our stillness. It all has its timing.
Absolutely. It's all about just tapping in and being able to utilize, the tools that we have, whether it is astrology and the moon cycles and the zodiac signs, or whether it is essential oils and aromatherapy and crystals. We have to utilize these different tools that we have for our healing, and really be able to just honor our healing and know that it's okay. We're not alone. We're not doing this alone. Just know that there is a sister or brother somewhere out there in the world, whether it's in China or Indonesia or in Texas, that is dealing with the same exact thing.
Yes.
We hold space for each other to heal and to love.
So one of the things because I have a question I want to ask you, but first I do want to point out that a lot of times we don't even realize what it is we're holding on to, or what it is that's like ready to be healed in our space. So one thing I will say with this work as well, it's interesting what may come up for you, because again, like, we're not even always consciously aware of what we're holding. And a lot of that is in the unconscious, in the shadow. But as it comes forward, again, it's like giving us this opportunity to transform those energies and to be more in our fullness and our self-acceptance in these things. So for people listening, and I know we've said a lot about women, but, of course, men too. For people listening, if they're in a space right now where they're like, yeah, I do feel like there's something off, or I do feel like there's some healing that I'm ready to initiate. Because that's really what it's like initiating the healing, right? Do you have any recommendations for people who are thinking about it or feel kind of called to any of these systems, but just don't really know what to do?
I would say to definitely make sure that you are really looking within and tuning in and doing that self-reflection. And once you tune in, you're going to know exactly which calling is best for you. You just have to really ask yourself, even if it's topic, like what am I mostly interested in, or abilities, like what abilities are showing up for me? What is something that, even in the dream world, like what is something that I'm seeing myself doing in the dream world? And I would just say, of course, be patient with yourself, but seek other people that are doing this work. Mm-hmm. Get around these people, ask them questions, spend time with them, get around some great elders that have been doing this work for a long time. Get into the books and read on it. Even take courses if you need to, workshops, different things to self-empower yourself, and make sure that you do the healing on yourself first, because hurt people, and we have to heal first before we can Reiki anyone. Before we can treat or help other people, we have to make sure that we're honoring ourselves by making sure we're aligned, so that we can be a reputable source and be able to actually fully, at our highest potential, be able to give.
That is a really good message. And I'm glad. I mean, I think, we've said it a few times, but I think it can't be said enough how important it is to start with ourselves and really connecting in and anchoring into our own work, our own healing. And, it's a beautiful thing. So you are in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you offer both in-person and distant, or if someone wanted to work with you, do they have to be in Atlanta?
Oh no, it's in person as well as distant, for Reiki, same with tarot, in person or distant. And then I also do birth charts as well, if anyone is interested in having their birth chart done by me, and I'll break everything down for them as well. And I also have a book club that you can join on my website. And I also do local meetups for women, and eventually we will probably travel somewhere and do a out of state meetup. But right now we're doing local meetups. I'm hoping I can manifest by next year, 2020, to be able to do a meetup outside of the state. And that's all found on my website, which is Natural Muurmaid, Natural MUURMAID.com.
Beautiful. And what are the other places where people can find you, like on social media and things like that?
You can find me on Facebook, which is Natural Muurmaid as well. And you can find me on Instagram, which is Natural Muurmaid as well. And it's Natural MUURMAID.
Okay, before we go, I have to ask you about that, because the mermaid, even the spelling, but what is your resonance or connection to that energy?
The water. The water is where I recharge my batteries. Mm-hmm. And in doing this work, and this is why I always tell people it's so important, we have to do the self-care and the self-work and the self-healing first, because this work, it isn't always skipping through the daffodils, sunshine, and sunflowers. It takes a lot of energy to give someone else that energy. It takes a lot of energy, time, patience to give that to another person. And when I need to recharge my batteries, I go to the water, whether it's a lake, a river, an ocean. And I just really feel deeply connected with that mermaid energy, and just with the story of Atlantis. And it's just beautiful. I know mermaids exist. Yeah.
I love it. And so just any final message for, people listening, and if you may be experiencing some trauma, or even if you're not even fully aware of the trauma that you may be holding, any recommendation, like a quick message or like some encouragement that you have for people who are just starting out in this work or thinking about it?
I would say, for starters, definitely don't feel ashamed. Never blame yourself. Forgiveness always starts with self. So just always forgive yourself, even if it's something that you haven't caused, and it helps you to be able to forgive other people. Really be patient with yourself and your journey. Know that you are not alone. Know that you have the time and the ability to be able to heal. And just keep on going forward. Just do not stop. Know that your life has purpose. Know that you are here for a reason. Own your existence, and just know the beauty of your life and your purpose here, and how important healing is. Because I know for me, until I got the healing that I really needed, I was literally almost like on a deathbed. My root and my sacral was so much in pain that I could hardly hold food. I could hardly even walk. I was just drained by life, and I wanted to give up. And I realized that, there's going to be someone that's going to need me. There's going to be someone that's going to come along and that's going to need encouragement, or that's going to need healing, that's going to need a mentor. So do not give up. Keep going forward. Keep doing self-empowerment, such as listening to this transmission. That's self-empowerment. You are hearing different tools that you can use and utilize to help yourself. It is encouragement. It's knowing that you are not alone. So just continue the fight, and continue doing the work. And remember that self-love is important, and self-preservation is not anything to feel guilty about.
That is such a beautiful message. And I love that you say own your existence. I mean, all of that is so beautiful, but I love the message as well. And why I'm so thankful to do the podcast and have beautiful souls like you come on and share your work, because it really is about community and knowing exactly what you said, that we're not alone in this. And there are so, many tools and resources available, but we really can do this together and collectively. So Muurmaid, I have to thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your wisdom with us today. And yeah.
Thank you for having me on. And I also would like to add that coming in autumn of 2018, I will be having a podcast that's going to be strictly on women that are looking to heal through these different painful traumas, whether it is sexual abuse, verbal abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking, whatever has been through those dark roads. I've been down some of those dark roads, and we're going to discuss it, and we're going to hold space to heal together. And I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on here to really just speak my truth and my life story, my life purpose, in a way to be able to help others and to be a mirror. And I feel that we're definitely beautiful reflections of each other. So thank you.
Yes, honey. And that's what it's about. It's about us showing up for ourselves and the
Yes.
community. So
Yes.
no, I'm very thankful that you came today. I'm so glad that, this connection has been made. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Yes.
And
Yes.
anyone who wants to connect with you, I will be sure to put her website and social media contacts in the show description. So to contact Natural Muurmaid, you can go in the show description, click on the links. And thank you so much again, love, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Have a good day.
Thank you. Same with you.